Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are on the road. Welcome to a Celtic World, the Tactical Review. My name's Anthony McGuire. As always, I'm joined with Paul Massey as we are going to dissect Kilmarnock 1, Celtic 5. Paul, how you doing? How was your weekend? What did you up
Yeah,
to?
not
I had a
not
busy
bad.
one, still
Yeah,
recovering.
no, nah, I'm okay. I'm good. A bit of an abrupt start. um, we we
We're
seem to have
running
lost
late.
the titles. But yeah, great to be back on. Yeah, really good weekend. Had as we sort of sometimes do in the warmer climes of Australia, have a little bit of a Christmas in July type thing, albeit it was a week into August. So yeah, caught up with some of my best mates, or our best mates and kids and dogs and all sorts for a bit of a gathering on Saturday. So that was the type of thing that warms the cockles of the soul. So that was good stuff. And then yeah, just a bit of a quiet day. Bit of packing. Obviously, trying to get ready for the move. So yeah, we go on holiday next weekend. So and then rounded off with a very pleasant 8:30 kick-off locally. So yeah, cracking game. Nice way to round off the weekend. And then yeah, opportunity to wallow in the warm afterglow this evening.
I have to say, I was absolutely bloated on Sunday night. Full disclosure, I slept through the first half. I woke up at half time. Obviously, I've done as much reviewing and catching up as many highlights as possible. But yeah, I had a big weekend. It was my annual boys trip, so I went down to Margaret River. Yes, copious amounts of alcohol, more alcohol than I have drunk in quite some time. So I was in fine form on Sunday night. But yeah, like I said, it was waking up to see we were 3-0 up at half time was one way to fight off what was going to be the start of a terrible hangover. But anyway, here we are. I'm here. We're good. And well, let's get into it, Paul. So, Paul, Mark Duffy's saying better late than never. Well, I'm blaming Paul. I was ready to go, but that's okay. We're here, and that's right. Better late than never. We are live. And Mark started straight with the comments and the questions. He's talking about our new centre forward Casper Who. Yeah, but as much as the goals were good, what about the hold-up play and just the overall sort of movement and elegance in his play? So we'll definitely be talking about that, as he obviously was the man of the match. Shorty
Spoiler
saying
alert.
hail hail to you, and Craig saying this should be a quick show. Yeah, we were effing fantastic. See you next week. Yeah, well, we'll as Paul just said, we'll bask in what was, I'd say, a complete performance. And also, we might pass comment on what happened over at Ibrox before the end of the show as well, because that was just possibly the icing on the cake. Paddy Power have announced us as league winners for 2026-27 already. After 2 games, they've seen enough. Their usual banter has started even, it seems to be getting earlier every year, Paul. What's Jake saying here? Stress-free game. Hopefully, we get a few more. Yes. And then what's William Mattel saying? Guess the go one up and safe passing is over then. Well, is this the start of the Sean Maloney era, Paul? Or I'm assuming that everyone was doing it for Martin. And obviously, we'd gone to air before the Dundee game last week. So obviously, got the 1-0 victory there. And obviously, news during the week that Martin had ended up in hospital needing a minor procedure, and he's resting up at home. So it's the tactical review. Send our best wishes to Martin. Hope he's recovering well. I'm sure a result last night would definitely aid in that recovery. But yeah. But Paul, like I said, let's bask in it a bit. So it didn't take long for the goals to start coming, but I'll bring up the team lines. We'll stick to our usual format. But
Indeed.
you may as well take us into the first goal, because that didn't take very long.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely class. So the team unchanged from last week. And yeah, a bit of a laboured win in the opening game, but got the job done. I think Dundee will be a decent opposition for quite a few teams. I think they obviously won, I think, on the weekend as well.
Beat Aberdeen.
So yeah, beat Aberdeen, who beat Hearts. So yeah, I think they'll be okay. They'll be like many of those teams in the middle of the table. They'll struggle obviously when they get injuries and suspensions, but I think Presley's got them well organised. We saw that last season. And so sort of in the light of those subsequent results, I think, a bit of a kind of stubborn, gutsy, messy 1-0 win's okay in the first day of the season. I know there was a lot of frustration around it. The usual social media lurch to make a decision on Casper Who after 90 minutes, which I think some people will look a bit daft on the back of that. Of all persuasions, some Celtic fans, some fans of many other teams, and a few in the media as well. Look, it's always going to take time for players to slot in and for their teammates, especially in an attacking sense, to work out where they're going to best play. I think what we did see last week, when we won't labour on the Dundee game because obviously it's a week old now nearly, but I think what you saw in just little snippets that he was looking for quick offloads, little flicks. They weren't coming off, right? The guys around him didn't know to expect that. But another week on the training field, and you just saw that there was a much clearer game plan and playing to his strengths. I thought he was fantastic, both with and without the ball, and his link play, his dropping deep. But what you want from your striker, if it's a record signing, is for to stick the ball in the back of the net, and he obviously did that 3 times in 35 minutes, and basically took the game away from Kilmarnock at that point. And they were in it early doors, like even though we scored after a minute and 10 seconds, or whatever it was. In the subsequent sort of 10 minutes after that, there were chances at both ends. And if we should have probably scored more, they should have probably scored at least one. So there was a little bit of wobbliness at the back, which I think we settled into over time as the game sort of wore on. But yeah, the opening goal, it's great and it's simplistic as well. But the thing I wanted to draw attention to, and that's obviously what we do in this show, is a bit about the build up to that goal. So that goal starts from, and so these photos aren't going to do it justice. This goal starts from Alistair Johnston in the right back position. He plays a ball over the top, which Arnie Engels is busting a gut to get to. He gets it. He keeps it in play. He tries a little back heel flick around the defender. It flicks off the defender. It goes for a throw in. From that throw in, we recycle the ball back into our back four across the pitch. Tierney feeds it into Yang, and this is where we pick it up here. So Yang's double teamed, but he's managed enough just to get a little bit of a nudge on it, whether it's him or the defender that gets the last ball. But Tierney's alive to it and is on it in a flash. He had a great game too, but then who's now occupying the left wing position, having just galloped up the right wing position as the furthest forward player? It's Arnie Engels again. Tierney plays a really wonderfully weighted pass through to him. But Engels, as you can see here, he's pretty much got both feet off the ground at this point. He has managed to sort of, untangle his legs, let the ball run through them, and then he's away. And obviously we know his athleticism. He's on his weaker left foot. He gets his head up and he plays just a great dink cross at the back post. Now we'll speak about their centre back, I'm sure, throughout the analysis of this first half, because he's had an absolute mare. But Casper Who did what he did a few times in the game, is he made a run for the defender and then he made a run for himself. And as he's coming into the box prior, he's running towards the central position. The centre back sees he's there and then leaves that thought of that, and he gets caught ball watching on Engels. He stays in the middle. Who drifts off, and there he is. He's, what's that, half a yard he's nodding in from. So if you see here, just prior to this, Casper Who's ran to the middle of the box. The centre back, right in the middle of the screen, nearest to the goalkeeper, he's followed him in, and then he's just, and then just before the cross coming in, Who sort of starts to peel off. The defender's got his back to him. He can't see where he's going. He's got caught watching the ball, and both him and the goalkeeper get caught under it. And Who nods it in at the back post. It's a really, really, it's like we talk sometimes about how, if done well, football is a really simple game. And this is like the epitome of that. But the movement is what makes this, both on and off the ball. And Tierney's desire to get onto that loose ball and then deliver a really, really good pass. And Engels, on both sides of the pitch. You know, again, as usual, he's been a whipping boy the whole 2 years he's been here. He took a fair amount of grief last week because he didn't have a great game, and there was the usual criticism of him, you know, somebody with his one eye out the door, 1 foot out the door, not interested, etc., etc. He was absolutely brilliant yesterday. And you could be cynical and say that's because he had to lift his game because he's playing for a move, but as long as he's here, if he's playing anywhere close to that, he's an absolute asset. And I certainly, though I still expect him to go, I certainly hope that we can retain him because his athleticism and passing and overall range of play will be badly missed if he's outside and we don't have a replacement lined up.
The mood music in the last hour on Twitter seems to be that West Ham won't come in with an improved bid.
Somebody else will, though. Somebody else will. I saw that as well.
But... Yeah, look, Paul, absolutely, someone else might, but I think it would be sad for him to go to a championship club. I think he really should be, if he wants to make that step up, he should be going to the Premier League. So, and with more performances like what he did on yesterday, I'm sure that offer will come. But I'm glad that we are sticking to a valuation and saying, well, if you want him, it's 25 million quid or more, which would make him the most expensive championship signing of all time. I think the highest they've got is just shy of 20 million, I think. So yeah, anyway, but like I said, we will continue to monitor that. But it was interesting. I take a point because that first minute, AJ driving on, Engels, and then Yang and Tierney. It's like it's sort of everyone was sort of involved in a way in that goal sort of before it obviously creates a chance. But I think you hit the nail on the head with having an extra week on the park training, just understanding where Kasper wants to be in terms of, I will be at the back stick, I will do my best to shake off the defender, you just have to sit it up on that back post. And that seemed to be a tactic that we employed on numerous occasions, which is different to how we've played with like Maeda and Kyogo and other strikers. So you can't expect everything just to click on day one of the season, particularly when he probably had maybe 1 or 2 training sessions, if that, before the Dundee game. So I think a week on the training parts has done us wonders, and I think obviously we've got a couple more weeks of 1 game a week before we have our European fixture, and then I think we've postponed that game in between as well. So so we've got hopefully a bit of time on the training part to sort of get the sharpness. But a lot to see, a lot to like, and I think the highest XG that we've produced since XG has been recorded is a 5.69 or something like that. It was something quite incredible.
I read something since 2019, 2020, something like that. So just a different.
Oh, sorry, that's not the one. That wasn't the one I wanted to bring up. Sorry, my bad.
It's probably the Killy's a train wreck one, I would imagine.
This is the one I was trying to click on the wrong one, Mesh. Killy are a train wreck. Worst back 4 in the league. Killy managers drawn toe-to-toe with Celtic, tactical suicide, nothing more to train on. I take that with a pinch of salt because, Killy definitely set up thinking. I think Neil McCann honestly thought that Celtic were vulnerable, and he came a cropper. Absolutely, but we played well as well. Like, you don't score 5 goals just by the opposition team being rubbish. Like you still have to put in a performance to achieve that outcome. And interestingly enough, I mean, because I didn't watch the first half, but when I just watched the highlights back today, they had a couple of chances at 1-0 to get back into it. And
they did.
Then we had a couple of chances as well to make it 2-0, and then obviously we end up making it 2-0.
It was basically about end to end in the first 10-15 minutes. And I'll back my head a bit here. He has got the defending was kamikaze, it was suicidal. Basically what he set up to overload the midfield with the fullbacks in there as well. And he was regularly happy to have 3v3 when we broke, and that left him in all sorts of trouble. And there was enough warnings, and they didn't heed it. and we'll get to more of the goals. But yeah, this was the biggest chance they probably had. Got to this and the Kilty shot afterwards. Yeah, they get to the byline. It's a good pullback, I think, by John Jules, and yeah, this one could have easily ended up in the back of the net. Sinisalo,
do you think Sinisalo should be this far out in this situation, like with that many players in the box? Do you kind of feel like he should be the one trying to close the actually, obviously the ball's been played across, and so he's broke out.
So I think the thing is that stills can show some and reveal less. When that ball breaks through it comes through about 3 or 4 players' legs, most of the Celtic defenders have got the back to the ball at that point, and so aren't in a position to be there on a forward press, close the space. Sinisalo sees it all and he decides to try and take responsibility. I'm quite happy with him coming to close that. He does shut down the attackers' options, which is why it's not really a clean shot on goal. It's just into an area. It sort of bounces around a bit, and Trusty gets a good block on it, and then it's sort of squirreled behind the goal by a mixture of the attacker and Cameron Carter-Vickers. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess all round. There was a couple of breaks before we scored our second where Kilmarnock just sort of we were a bit slack in defence. Kilmarnock there's one a bit later than this. I think it's maybe the Greg Kilty chance, which you may or may not have.
Yeah, so this was Duran's chance. So
this was after it 6 minutes
as well.
Yeah, yep. I think this is a really good effort, and we will come on to Camilo Duran a little bit later in terms of his overall contribution, because he took a reasonable amount of grief last week as well. He just tries to bend it around the defender and use the defender as a sighter, and he's just a little bit unlucky. It's the wrong side of the post, but it's a good effort and a good break. This one, you're only seeing it arriving at Kilty just for the shot. Prior to this, it ends up at him because Cameron Carter-Vickers sort of gets his feet in a muddle, and he gets nutmegged with the through ball. This must have I've never seen an angle that shows the touch, but this must have been a really good save by Sinisalo, because they all claim for it and it gets a corner given, and it only just goes past. So I assume he gets the slightest. It doesn't on the live footage. It doesn't show that it deviates massively, so it must have been quite a fine touch. But yeah, this was back-to-back 2 big saves actually from Sinisalo, and after that he didn't have too much more to do. But he tips this one around the post at 1 each, and then this one is dropping in. Really nasty clash of heads actually, but Sinisalo's kind of keeping focused, and this is dropping inside the top corner, and he just flicks it over, which I guess he does his job. He should save that, but he gets it done.
So this is where we start coming back into it again in terms of chances. That this should have been a goal. I think this chance.
Is this the one where there's like we have queuing up? There's 3 efforts.
Yeah. So
that's Tierney break. I think that's Tierney breaking.
It's Tierney breaking. Yeah. And then Engels knocks it back inside, and then this is when rattles it.
Keeper makes a good save here. Good save. Just obviously straight at him, but it's hit with power. And he gets enough of a touch as he's dropping to hit it off the bar.
Yeah, and then who tries to header it in?
And he should possibly do better. So keeper makes an amazing double save. He's completely out of it at this point, but the defenders finally wake up, and Tierney smashes one in from 6 yards, but it's well blocked.
And this one here is Duran linking up with AJ, and then got the ball coming across from AJ. Duran touches it on to KT, and then KT probably should do better here as well. He hits it sort of down the keeper's throat.
One of 2 chances, one of 2 really quite good chances. He has a good chance on his other foot. I think later in the game, it cuts in. And he should do better with that. I think he had 2 really good chances last week as well, and he probably should have scored at least 1 last week. Yeah. So, yeah, he could have. Katie could have 2 for the season as well already. But
again,
had a great game.
I think the point to sort of say is that he's getting in the right positions, and this is the thing. Like the goals will come, the goals will come, but like he's kind of starting this season how he finished last season, which is the important thing. We won't have this sort of 10-12 weeks of Kieran Tierney easing himself back into.
Yeah, it wasn't a criticism. It wasn't a criticism. It was great to see him.
No. But I'm saying
in those positions, like you say, and he's he had a great game, really good game. I think he finished it as well, which is nice to see.
Well, we don't have a left back to back him up, so he
Oh,
kind of has to at the moment, does he not?
yeah, well, we had a right back playing left back last week, so
Yeah, I know.
he looked like he was suffering a bit last week. But yeah, he there was a couple of times faster players did sort of run away from him, but other than that, I thought he had a good game all round. This is a great goal as well. I like the thing I like about this goal. So we should probably go back to the defending to some degree. I don't know when you pick this up. Is that the first?
Well, there's your centre half all the way out there for
well,
start.
What you missed there, if this is the start of the coverage we've got, is
this is the start of the coverage. Here we
so
go.
He's passed it. I think that's Callum McGregor. He's passed it straight to Cal. He's passed it straight to Callum McGregor, and then starts to drift left. It ends up, I think, with Camilo Duran, and who's then spinning behind the defender. Centre back he's out there because the fullback's out of position because they were bombing on and taking gambles at the back, and obviously they were in possession when this move starts, so there's too many of them ahead of the ball. Duran just plays a nice little ball into Nygren, and given the space on offer, Benjamin Nygren had an absolute field day. He was the part of the pitch he wants to occupy, which is traditional number 10 role in behind the striker. There was hardly any cover there all day. So he had so much room to play in. He takes it well. He slides it in his what looks like his new best mate. And it's a really nice finish by who. You could maybe say the keeper gets a hand to it. Can he do more? But it's just a nice contact. Hits it first time. Takes it nice and early. Catches the keeper a little bit off balance. And it's another one in the net.
It's he's making Nygren more likable to the Celtic support. Obviously, Benjamin Nygren scores all these goals, whatever, but that's two post-match interviews. The two of them have done it, and they've obviously developed a quick relationship. Obviously hailing from similar parts of the world, but yeah, they definitely seem to have a good understanding, and I think you're right, Paul. That's where Nygren wants to operate. But if you've got a big tall centre forward dragging defenders left, right, and everywhere, surely makes Benjamin Nygren's job a bit easier, does it not? Like, too busy worried about the big man. Meanwhile, he can just float in and do what he does. And yeah, I just think that the one that probably suffers in all this is probably Camilo Duran, because you're kind of thinking that Duran could be the guy that sort of plays on that sort of that number 10 or just sort of behind the centre forward. But he's obviously doing a job for us out on the right wing, even though he's not really a right winger. Yeah, if you get in that sort of problems at Nygren, and I take your point that defensively Kilmarnock were all over the place and giving up the space for him to occupy, but yeah, like I said, it's just interesting how new dynamics form when you bring in some new players and it freshens up the team, because not only have you got a new signing, and obviously we broke the bank to get Casper Hu in, but then the knock-on effect that then has to other players in your team as well.
Well, I think the other thing we should acknowledge, all that's true. The other thing we should acknowledge here is just the slight tactical tweak of Engels' roles changed, right? Like they're setting up with him and McGregor closer together. I think the difference being he's been given the responsibility that he can effectively play. We don't really see this very often anymore. It's quite exciting to see it. That sort of freedom to be a box-to-box midfielder. He's been trusted because of his athleticism and his ability to get up and down the park and around the pitch. Like we saw him right wing to win the throw-in, left wing to create the first goal. But his starting position is pretty close to Callum as a sort of second six, if you like. But then he's got the freedom to bomb on when we're attacking. But the expectation he'll be getting back to defend as well. And what that effectively has done is it's allowed us to give Nygren more freedom. Like the issue I think a lot of people have with Nygren is when we're playing Last season we were playing with more of that 2-1 inverted, so it was Cal on his own as cover, and Engels and Nygren higher up the pitch. And what that does is only one of them is ever going to track back, and that sort of led to a lot of frustration with Nygren. And a lot of teams sit in, and we didn't really have the space for him to operate in. As you rightly pointed out, we didn't really have a focal point centre forward pulling defenders around with massive amounts of movement. When Maeda was playing through the middle, he was obviously trying to find the channels and run into gaps and run in behind. A very different player to Casper Ho. So yeah, I think we're getting to a point where the front half of the team looks quite exciting. Not to say that it doesn't need further reinforcements, because it absolutely does. And if we lose one or two or three, then, because here's the thing, right? I said a few weeks ago, it's peak time to sell Nygren. Like, you know, he's had an amazing season. He's been top goal scorer. He's gone to the World Cup. He's got a few years left on his contract. He's only done 1 year with us. You probably get a fat fee for him, take it, cash in. If he continues to operate how he has done, and adds a bit more all-round football to his game other than just the goals, then, you know, there's potentially a really good squad player in there. I still don't think he's a starter every single week. I think we want to add in the midfield, and if somebody like Mikabar comes in, he'd be competing for that spot. So time will tell, but I think just the tweaks to the sort of tactical setup has sort of really already reinvigorated that team. Obviously, yeah, as you say, Hassan, by all accounts, is close to being done. But in classic Celtic style, will take weeks to actually announce it. So let's hope it does get done, because yeah, he's electric, super fast. And the other thing that we'll do is, when, you know, we're hopefully playing, if we can get through this Champions League, nothing, I'm not taking this for granted, but if we can get even the 2 or 3 rather than the 3 or 4 we've been promised prior to that, take that with a pinch of salt until we see it. If we can get through that time, we're playing Wednesday, Saturday as opposed to Thursday, Sunday, and we've got wingers in, then we can pretty much rotate 60 and 30 minutes week in, week out, or midweek to week in, with 2 centre forwards in Camilo Duran and Casper Ho. And that would be, it's been a long time since we've been in that position where we've been able to, you've probably got to go back to Kyogo and Giacomakis to that kind of time, where you could play one of them on the weekend and swap the other one in for last 20 minutes, half an hour, and vice versa in the Champions League. So I've not jumped from glass half empty to glass half full in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, which it kind of sounds like I have, but there's the starting of a good squad, and at the very least, the players we've been linked with are of the right quality. They're starting quality players. They're not just squad filler fodder. So I really hope we can do whatever we can to strengthen the squad. If we can retain the likes of AJ and Engels, that would be fantastic. If we do have to sell them, or they insist on going and the right offers there, then let's make sure we're getting adequate replacements in that sort of replicate the type of players they are. I think, as good as Engels is, I think bizarrely it might be harder to find a replacement for Alistair Johnson, just in terms of his ability to get up and down and contribute both.
It seems Everton's moved on anyway, so we've probably survived that bid, and yeah, we'll see what else.
And I think this is, you know, there's a lot of frustration in the Celtic support, and rightly so, because of us sitting on cash and not spending it when it's already in the bank, and the sort of insistence to get money in before we spend it back out. But I think the one thing it does do is mean that we don't have to take a crap offer. We're in no position where we have to sell players, and if we're going to sell players, let's negotiate the best deal possible. I think on the flip side of that, the frustration lies, I think, with most fans, is we expect our board to make sure we get the right price and market value for our own players. Somehow they don't feel like they need to pay market value for other clubs' players, and that's why deals get dragged out. So I've got no issue with us trying to make sure we get top dollar, but let's just pay a fair fee, negotiate a deal, get it done, move on, and keep going.
And the other spanner in the works here is that AJ came off with a twinge, or he felt something at half time. So yeah, how that plays out over the next couple of weeks will be interesting, because obviously, you know, we like him available for our Champions League tie against Lask, and if we made it through, AJ will stay for one more season. Well, gotta do it first, so then I guess
he's got 3 years on his deal, right? So, albeit that he's coming towards his peak years, it would make I'm sure it would make a lot of sense for both player and club if we have got another Champions League run, then he might well, see the value in that. He's still got 2 years on his deal, so we'll still get a decent fee for him. And he'd still be under 30 by the time he went to, presumably a top 5 European league. So your fingers crossed on all of that. But I do. The spanner in the works of all of this is what is his injury sort of position going to look like? He was out for a very long time last year. Maloney sort of said it was a precautionary. We'll double check. We'll have a look. So hopefully it is just precautionary. But if it isn't, then do we think? Yeah, we'd have to go and buy another right back. I think we already need.
Oh yeah, you couldn't. I would not be happy going into a whole season with Tony Ralston and Kobe Donovan. Sorry. Oh. Just a bit of conversation around the chat, just about Nygren and obviously saying like more than goals, and then Mark Duffy, someone saying, well, is it because he's a bit slow? And I think it's his general athleticism, which is probably the key frustration.
One paced, isn't he? We've talked about that a lot. Yeah. He's quite one paced.
Because he's not somebody who can sort of really carry the ball or do any of that sort of stuff, and he's closing down at times. Looks more like he's sort of going through the motions rather than, it's not as rapid as if it was an Hatate or, and that's the problem, is he's been probably compared to some of the best pressers that Celtic's probably ever had. So yeah, probably a victim of that to a certain extent. But if he keeps putting in performances like yesterday, then yeah, I'm sure, as I said, that opinion will change in time. We'll do the third goal poll, and then that takes us to half time. So I'll just bring that up now. I clicked on the wrong window. Hang on, here we go. So this one starts with Carter Vickers. So he puts in an interception, and then ball breaks up to Cal McGregor. You see him with McGregor, he's playing the ball with his back to the goal, playing it forward, and Cal McGregor's not always renowned for doing that, and I don't know whether this is maybe some of the instruction coming from Maloney and Neil this season is to try and if it's on, if we think it's on, let's play it forward and try and catch teams out. And obviously with Kelly pressing men forward, that obviously suited us. Ball gets put through. It's an Nygren. It takes out a couple of players, and then from here he puts the ball out to Duran. And this is where Casper does his thing, and again runs off the defender's centre-half shoulders. Back stick, easy as you like, 3-0. And the keeper, it was a wonderful ball by Duran, because the keeper's full stretch, don't really see it in the images, but full stretch, and just can't get his fingertips to it. And that makes it 3-0.
Big word for you're right in the passing forward thing, and that was a key element of the play all day. McGregor's great to turn it around the corner there, but I think it's crucial to talk, because another player who gets a lot of criticism, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly, he turns it into empty space, and it's Yang who's come off his wing, and he's right in the heart of the midfield, and just a deft little touch between two defenders, and he slips it. It's pretty much, I think it might be one touch, two max, but he basically he sees two defenders coming towards him. He just slides it through the middle of the two of them, Ivan Edo stuff, and sets Nygren on his way. Those two killer players, including the centre back, who's just jogging back by the end. He had an absolute mare for all three goals. Him and his mate have just sort of crashed into each other in the middle of the pitch. And then from there, Nygren's got it all in front of him. His times to pass perfectly. Duran then commits his man, and he dinks as good across as Engels did on the other side. He nips across, and yeah, Casper, who's just, I didn't mind a headed goal back in my day, but I think even in my current fitness, I'd have knocked this one in. So yeah, great for him, great celebrations. I think one of the things is, he's obviously a massive personality already in the dressing room. Big smiles from all the team as they've celebrated each of those goals with him. I actually, going back to the first goal, I really liked the sort of the left side union of Yang and KT go straight to Engels when that first goal was created. Like everybody else went to Casper Ho because obviously it's who's first goal. They want to celebrate with him, and it's obvious to say. But those two who were involved in it down that channel, they both were pointing straight at Engels and then sort of rushed him, and then who himself was pretty quick to, once he had his initial celebration, he was looking for Engels because he wanted to sort of point out the quality, and it just looked like they were really pleased to be working with each other, and yeah, good camaraderie. We know there was great camaraderie in that dressing room from last year. We wouldn't have achieved what we achieved if there wasn't, with all the setbacks we had. But yeah, a massive personality. His interviews are comedy gold. You can tell he's the kind of guy that's going to keep fun in that group. And yeah, who knows? Maybe that little lift from the dressing room's got from a player of his quality and a personality as big as his, maybe that is going to persuade one or two that might otherwise have thought about leaving, that it's worth hanging around for another season at least.
Well, I reckon that's had an impact on Cal McGregor, because he was the one with the mood music that, like, if you don't show some ambition, I'm not going to stay just to make up the numbers. So it is a statement signing. Like, yes, you're paying a lot of money, but you're getting a guy in who's a character. Let's face it. I mean, these interviews are box office, and now he's managed to stick a hat trick in, and fastest hat trick since where are we? Since Frank McAvenny and Mark McGee. They both scored 3 by the 28th minute in an 8-0 win at Hamilton in 1988. So it's the fastest one since then. And interestingly, the table stats of hat tricks, Celtic have scored 56 hat tricks since the year 2000 to Rangers 30. But yeah, so we've done some damage in that time. The current top flight teams, Dundee United, you've got to go back to 2013 for their last hat trick, and that was Johnny Russell, 3-2 against Kilmarnock. There you go. So yeah, so just a wee stats for you. You love a wee stat every now and then, Paul. But your man, the comedian, he does an awesome impression of Casper Who.
James Gardner.
Blessed be to God. And then he does his, I thought we were playing on Astro, but no, we're playing on grass. I love grass. Yeah, very good. Check it out. It's funny. But yeah, I'm loving it. It's good. And it kind of, like, as much as last season ended up being great for other reasons, like, these are the sorts of performances that you want to be seeing, that we want to be talking about. And to be 3-0 at halftime, dominant, your centre forwards, second game, putting three good headers, or 2 headers and a right-footed shot. All good. Didn't take too long, so I'm sure Neil McCann was doing apoplectic in the halftime team talk. That, unfortunately for him, didn't last very long, because literally Max Stryak had other ideas. So Maxi Boy gets the ball. You can see here that Nygren's just coming onto the edge of the 18-yard box. And somehow the keeper's just passed it with no pace straight to Nygren, and Nygren just goes, "Thank you very much," and that makes it 4-0, and that's the ball game, if it wasn't already the ball game. But just a moment of madness from Max.
Well,
who, you have to say he actually had up until this point had not a bad game. He'd
had a great game up until this point. Like, he'd lost 3 goals, but you couldn't really blame him for any of those. And he'd had double saves and other saves, and he sort of kept the score down. What you do notice about him is he looks like a great shot stopper. He looks a bit suspect more than a bit suspect with the ball at his feet, just not comfortable. And clearly, and we've talked about this a lot on and off air, amongst the Celtic World group chat, etc. This insistence by managers, and we saw it in the World Cup. There was managers who, like, dogmatic to the point of stupidity in terms of the request to play out from the back. You need a certain level of quality to be able to do that. And the keeper here is under absolutely no pressure. and he just passed the ball straight to Benjamin Egrin. Like, there's not even someone particularly close to that. It's just so badly executed. If you can't execute that kind of brief, like short pass, then you've got no business even trying it. Like, either get somebody in that can do that, or allow him to do what he can do and get it, but knock it up the pitch and try and win it for higher up the pitch, or have him give it really short to somebody else that can pass a ball and turn that responsibility over. It's a great finish from Negrin. He's under zero pressure, but lovely shaped it. Carl's at the top corner, no chance. Puts the game beyond doubt if it wasn't already. And yeah, 2 from 2 for him. He's off and running again. And you would imagine if he hangs around, then he'll score even. There's a chance he could score even more goals this season than he did last year at 21, because we're carving out more chances. So we'll see. But yeah, good for him. He seems to, as you say, he seems to have struck up a good relationship, partnership, rapport with Casper Howe, and that can only be good for the squad overall.
We just need like I said, I just think we need that another winger. I'm feeling at the moment, obviously players haven't left the building, but we've got probably a really strong starting lineup. But it's when you go to that substitute bench, that's when you're probably starting to sort of feel that there's maybe not as much depth there at the moment. And like I said, wide positions, centre mid. I know there's a few comments in the chat about Oxlade-Chamberlain. Where's he fitting in? But I'm sort of getting the feeling at the moment he was just a bit of a get a body in, and I think he'll be a bit like a James Forrest. He'll probably play a part at some point in the season. If you do pick up an injury or you need to cover 2 games a week, that's when I think we'll start to see the Ox. But at the moment, with the strongest team we have available, I don't think he sort of gets near it, especially if Engels and McGregor and Negrin are playing the way they are.
Great seeing your pro, seen it and done it all. Great to have around the group, and will contribute when we're back to playing 2 games a week. Even I think his best usage of him is in 20-25 minute cameos as teams are tiring. He's got that ability to find a pass, find pockets of space, let the ball do the work. So yeah, I'm not unhappy that he's in and around the squad, but I don't expect to see him for even 60, 70, 80, certainly not 90 minutes on a regular basis. But I think he's a good addition to the group. We definitely did strengthen that midfield area by at least 1 or 2. And if Engels or Negrin or both go, then by more, by the same amount in and out. And that goes for anyone else in the position.
We need a backup left back. We need a backup goalkeeper or a goalkeeper of a quality to push Sinisalo on. I think Nick Pope's getting mentioned again in the chat in the comments.
I don't think that's going to happen.
But
his wages would rule us out. We're definitely interested in the goalie. We're playing sort of silly buggers with is it Horcas? Is he in? Play for a Mexican club. Anyway, there's clearly interest in goalkeepers. We've been linked with various goalkeepers throughout the window, and I think we obviously will bring one in. We've only got 2 at the moment, so you need 3, and it would make sense to, given Sinisalo's only just got the jersey, it would make sense to bring someone who can push him as a would-be first choice.
Duran's really unlucky with this chance.
Second one that hits the woodwork.
Yeah, hits the woodwork again. So, again, chapping at the door, but it will come for him for sure. And then they got the park and score. It's actually quite a bad move from Killie, this. Like, they sort of move the ball really well. They create the space. This image doesn't really show it, but Donovan he was in the sort of effectively the right centre-back position. So the man Larson who scores the goal, like, he's in acres of space, and sort of Donovan's really trying to sort of make up ground where I kind of feel like maybe his position, I know he sort of like let him go and is covering the sort of the central forward, but he's sort of dived in here and that's sort of opened up the space, and it's a decent enough strike, but I just don't know whether, like I said, the fullback, whether he could have done a wee bit better in this situation, Paul. But like I say, the movement for Tilly was good, but
it's good movement, and they did that, like I said earlier on in the first half, they did that pretty well, and they do it again here. They shift it quite quickly through the various players across the pitch. Donovan's just he sort of realizes the danger a bit too late, and then he goes to ground in sort of an attempt to block, but he then basically overslides and overstretches. It's just that bit of sort of, I guess, lack of experience, bit of naivety, bit of lack of match sharpness. Again, a lot of heat coming onto him, a lot of grumbles about Colby Donovan, which I both understand and think's unfair. I know where it comes from. It comes from a frustration that we might end up with him potentially as the first choice right back, or even, have to rely on him heavily if the first choice right back, whoever that may be, Alistair Johnston or somebody else, gets injured, and then and there is a drop off. But unfortunately, it's kind of what happens, in certain positions in a club like us, because we can't have the same quality in every single position. It's just unlikely. Well, you could, but I think it's pretty unlikely that you can have, one right back just happy to sit on the bench all year, hoping for a player to either get injured or get 10, 15 minutes at the end to give him a bit of a rest. So, despite him not being a perfect player and having, poorer games at times, Colby Donovan was one of the bright sparks of last year. Like, there wasn't a lot of brightness going around for long parts of the season, and for him to come through in a season like that and sort of make himself a solid part of the squad, if nothing else, the shows us a bit about him, and whether he can get to the level and consistency that we would want and need to be a first choice Celtic right back. He's not there yet, but he's still just a kid, right? So I think we've got a habit as Celtic fans of getting on the back of players really quickly, and especially young Scottish players, which sort of I don't really understand the mentality with that. We definitely need, whether it's Alistair Johnston or someone else, we definitely need a solid first choice. If Johnston is going to pick up injuries, even if he stays, you might need one more. Difficult to say that for sure.
I'm a bit sort of lenient when it comes to Colby Donovan, because he's a young player. He had a breakthrough season last season. Obviously, with AJ having the injury that he had, he got to play a fair amount of football, more than he would have played otherwise. He showed some really good qualities. I like how he does overlap and get forward. I think defensively he's still learning his craft. But if we don't play him in games where we're 3-0 up against Killie, when are you going to play him? You know what I mean? I know we had to take AJ off because he had a twinge or whatever, but it's the ideal opportunity for him to play half a game of football and learn and get better. He's a young player. He is going to improve, but he's not going to improve. He'll end up being like another Stephen Welsh and just sit on the bench every week and never get on and not get any game time, and then his development will stagnate, and we'll end up letting him go on a free to some second division French club or whatever. So you've got to give youth a chance, particularly when you're 3-0 up. Like, when are you ever going to play a young player? It's like when you're absolutely doing the opposition. That's the ideal time to be doing it. And then if push comes to the shove, and there's 20 minutes to go against last, and we need to shove him on, then you're hoping that the game time he has had will put him in better stead for dealing with that situation if the need arises. I'm not saying we'd throw him in, but like, if you need to put him on, then he's going to be better for it. So I know we all want just buy this player, buy that player, but there's a bit of a more bigger context story at the moment, talking about the Scottish national team and how there's only like 22% of players that played in the weekend were Scottish and all this sort of stuff. Well, if we can't manage this in this situation, then I don't know when we ever will be able to.
It's absolutely a fair point. I was really disappointed we didn't see Thomas Hatton on the bench either the first game of the season or yesterday. You've got players like Hatate who clearly aren't going to come off the bench unless it's an extreme situation. He's very clearly halfway out the door. The manager clearly doesn't fancy him. you've got people like Sebastian Tinekti who flatter to deceive for weeks and months at a time, and is just back from a World Cup and is probably, could do with a bit of slower period building into the team. I'd have loved to see, like, we only saw little snippets of Hatton in pre-season, but because the World Cup, a bunch of these younger players got a chance in pre-season. If not now at the beginning of the season, where there's probably the least pressure we're going to be under, unless we canter to the league and we've won it with quite a few games to go. Once you're into 2 games a week, it's like much harder to play them, especially if it starts to get tight, which already doesn't look like it's gonna, but you never know. It's early days.
Said that last season.
Yeah, well, I was right in the end, as usual. And there's no point me calling it after 2 games now, because Paddy Power have beaten me to it.
Okay, Paddy
so,
Power.
But yeah, like, I think to the point earlier that Jay mentioned, it's absolutely valid. Is we've got to find a way to get young players on the pitch, and I do think that players that are playing wide positions or higher up the pitch are probably, there's less risk in playing them. They make a mistake, yeah, maybe they don't score a goal, or we miss a chance, or we don't create a chance as well as we could have. But if it's a goalkeeper or a centre back or a full back and they make a mistake, then potentially they've given away a penalty, got themselves sent off, or lost a goal. So I understand the reluctance to risk players, but at some point you've got to play these players. Otherwise, you're never going to know if they're any good. So yeah, and we're in a real point of we've lost so many young players so in recent years because there's clearly no pathway. We've got to find a pathway to get these players on the pitch for 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time over the course of a season. We've got a would-be superstar in Zion Pullen, who's 15 years old and involved in 100 goal involvements last season. It is probably playing 1 or 2 years above his level. He's already been snaffled by Spain and capped. And once he signs a professional contract at 16, he's probably gone to a bigger league, unless we've got him on the pitch a few times and given him minutes. Now, it might sound madness to say we want to chuck a 15-and-a-half-year-old into the Scottish Premier League, but if he is as good as everything we hear it is, we've got to be braver with this kind of stuff. Wayne Rooney, obviously, once a generation talent, but he's playing regularly for Everton at 16 years old. I just think we have to be a wee bit bolder. I know we've gone kind of off topic here, but the game was, we home and hosed it.
And then that's a comment here from Jay saying that why don't we play our younger players in the League Cup and the Scottish Cup? But the pressure to win a treble has become all-encompassing. It's a treble used to be like a once in a decade, 2-decade thing. Like, it just, now it's become like that is the yardstick by which a Celtic team is now measured. It's like the expectation is you should win a treble, and yeah, you're then inclined to put out your strongest team that you've got available, maybe 1 or 2 changes to freshen it up, but you literally put out your strongest team every single time because you just can't afford not to pick up another trophy. So again, that I think puts the pressure on in terms of not allowing those sort of development sort of spots to open up. I'll just quickly run through the last couple of chances in our 5th goal, and then we can wrap it up, Paul, because we've amazingly we're at 55 minutes. It's gone quickly. It always does when you're playing well. So this was ball over from Tinekti. He came on as a substitute for Duran. Ball over the top, and then Casper, who hits the post. Probably should be hitting the target if I'm being
really good movement again, and managed to generate a fair amount of power. Just gets the direction slightly off, but yeah, if he gets this a few inches inside, then the keeper's not getting there.
Yang tries the specky, as they say in Australia, the special bicycle kick there. Doesn't quite come off. Leads to a corner, and again, Kilmarnock not exactly covering themselves in glory with this one. Like, there are a bunch of statues just standing there, and Luke McCann, the fastest man on the park, manages to sort of curl this one around, and finds the keeper's right side and into the back of the net, and that makes it 5-1 and icing on the cake.
Yeah, I think if that goal doesn't end up in, there's probably a pretty good shout for a penalty because McCowan's nearly having the shirt ripped off his back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can hear actual shouts for it from behind the goal from the fan base, and there's a few players sort of got their hands in the air for it. But yeah, he tucks it away, and it's a far too easy goal again from a
James
defender's point of
Forrest
view.
unlucky with this chance as well.
The pass from Engels is
Yeah.
it's a world class pass from the outside of the foot, perfectly weighted. And Jamesy Forrest runs onto it on his weaker side. And I honestly, when he hit it, I thought it was in. It just flashed past. And yeah, from first minute to last, Engels absolutely class. On any other day, you would probably have taken the man of the match, but leads us nicely into our normal segment, which will be very much a spoiler alert led segment. Man of the match.
Man of the match. Yes. Well, I mean, Casper, who was our official man of the match, and you know, I acknowledge Engels had an absolutely brilliant game. I thought Kieran Tierney really good game. I thought Cal McGregor had a good game. Needard had a really good game. I thought Duran played well for his 60 minutes he was on. But yeah, I think the big man hat trick, kind of hard not to acknowledge that, and he is my official man of the match. But I've got a feeling it might be a split decision this week.
No, Casper Ho gets it.
No.
Not just for his goals, which were great, but like his movement and link-up play was fantastic as well. He was willing to drop deep. He was last week where it wasn't that link-up play and the joining in with his teammates was just not quite coming off. Pretty much nearly all came off yesterday. So yeah, no, it's not a difficult decision to give him man of the match, but certainly everyone you mentioned was heavily contributing, and we didn't really get time to speak about Camilla Duran in much detail, but he took a fair amount of grief last week and stuff like he's never a winger as long as backside points down, etc., etc. He isn't an out and out winger, but he's certainly a forward player that can occupy a wide space and cause problems. And certainly, I thought he quietly went about his business really well, and a good team man. And he got one assist. He should have had another. He had one early on, which wasn't in the highlights even, never mind in our clips, where he took a shot at goal when he should have just slipped it in. Yang would have had a tap in if he'd just squared it to him. He had the one off the bar. So he's absolutely contributing. And the more him and the other players around him, whether that's Nygren or Casper, who all play together, you will see more from him. I think, there's a real talent there.
I think as well, Paul.
And him and Yang were happy to interchange quite, swap wings, etc. I think he's a good player, and he will.
I just think your fullbacks as well, how they interact, like, because if they are playing a little bit like if your wingers playing a little bit more narrow, then it's not so much the AJ underlap that you need; it's more of the conventional overlap, just to sort of give you that extra overload. And that link up, but that comes with playing together. They've literally, like I said, it's been a few games, so it's early days. A few comments talking about the Rangers Hibs penalty. I did have a quick look at it today. It was given on VAR. I guess the question is, I think what attracted the attention was the fact that the Rangers defender didn't even have his eyes on the ball at any time. Like, he was just fixated on the Hibs player. Hands go up. I mean, I think the Hibs player goes down fairly easily, so I can understand why people are saying it's soft. But if you're not making any attempt to play the ball, then and you're impeding the opposition player from attacking the ball, I just kind of think that, the letter of the law, that is a foul, and therefore it's a penalty. I mean, you could deem it to be soft, and maybe one that's not been given very much in Scottish football up until now. But I just think, for me, the fact that his back is to the play the whole time, like if he's facing the other way and he backs into him and it's a bit of a coming together, then that's different. But I just think that the way he's sort of going about it, I just think, well, there's only one outcome in that situation. And if the ball's not near them and they just come together, then all right. But he was in a position where the ball was there to be won. So for me, yeah, I can understand why that was given. And maybe I'm saying that because it was Rangers and Hibs, but And Derek's under immense pressure already. Still
At
hasn't
least
got
he's
his
got his
first
brogues,
win as a
though.
Rangers manager.
At least he's got his brogues. I didn't see it, so I'm not going to comment on it.
Okay,
I did see something comment on Twitter to say that that it was a really good decision by the VAR, but I don't know if that's just him providing his typical wind-up related punditry, or whether he genuinely thinks it was the right decision. But yeah, I think from what I've heard on this forum is massively different to what I've heard from the so-called normal media stuff. I just read the match report this morning when I woke up. Went, that's a good result. Let's read the report, and it said no one in the stadium expected it to be given. I think that says more about the people in the stadium.
Mikey Stewart was making a bit of a tit of himself. He's like, "Oh, they've totally re-refereed or re-reviewed that decision." It's like, well, that's VAR. That's what VAR does, Michael. Like they review decisions. Like you've just outlined what they do. You're making it sound like that's not what they should be doing. Anyway, I don't know. Every time I think Michael Stewart's all right, he comes up with some daft like that. Jay, I think even the comment of the day, pal, I'm strapped in for this journey with who, like a lad that was at Star Wars ride at Universal Studios. Yeah, strap in. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, and probably a lot of our season will be riding on his hopefully his successful season, and if he can crack that 30 goal mark, that will go a long way to for us to have a really good season this year coming. But we'll see.
9 more hat tricks, eh?
It's early. 9 more hat tricks. I love it. Early days. All right, Paul, we've cracked an hour, buddy. So what have you got for us in the review front this week?
Well, I'm gonna just do an album review or a recommendation. So I just throw it around with various bits of media, but yeah, music's my main thing outside of football. So huge release for me. One I've been waiting for a long time. So for anyone who follows the Scottish music scene and has done for a number of years, you will hopefully be aware of a band called Frightened Rabbit. Frightened Rabbit had a frontman called Scott Hutchison, who sadly took his own life in 2018. This week's album review is the debut album from Haver. Good Scottish word there for the band name. Haver are Billy Kennedy, the lead guitarist from Frightened Rabbit's new project. So Billy has put the band together. Obviously, it's now 8 years since Scott passed. So they've taken time to get to this point. But the new album came out on Friday. It's called The Ghost Dance. It's fantastic. If you were ever interested in the music of Frightened Rabbit, Scott Hutchison, Al John, then I urge you to go and have a listen to The Ghost Dance by Haver. Absolutely class.
Thank you, Paul. Watched a few movies in the off season. The one that I was quite excited about, which was just being a bit of a kid, but Mortal Kombat 2. Good film. If you watch the first one, it's a very similar vein. A few more fights, and Carl Urban plays Johnny Cage. I think he does a good job. So adds a bit of star power to the roster characters. But like I said, it's just easy, take your brain out viewing for 90 to 100 minutes, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. But they've set it up for a trilogy, so hopefully it happens. And that's streaming now, so you can watch that on one of those. Paul, very good to chat with you. I'm feeling a lot better now. I was a bit rough about an hour ago, but I'm glad we did this. I need to have a good night's sleep tonight. Back to work tomorrow. But we'll be back next week covering League Cup.
Dundee United, Dundee United.
Yeah,
Celtic
Dundee
League Cup.
United, who got beat on the weekend. So everyone's had a bit of a stop-start to the season, except for us and St Mirren. They're 2 from 2. They were tipped to be one of the stellar dwellers this season. So there you go. Work that one out. But we'll be back covering the League Cup match against Dundee United. Please like and subscribe to the episode. It helps other like-minded Celts find us online. Please leave a comment as well if you watch this on delay. Always have a look and see what people are saying. Thank you for everybody in the comment section. Been very lively tonight. Did my best to get as many of those up as possible. But yeah, feel free to join us next week and we'll do it all over again. Paul, all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.